The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast. Heading north of the border to Circuit Gilles, Villeneuve is the Red Sox Racing League here on a Thursday night. The twists, turns, hairpins, long straightaways here on the semi-permanent road course here. There are a little bit of public streets here, so it is kind of a temporary circuit, kind of a permanent track, kind of a hybrid of the sort, but it always puts on good racing and is usually always a driver's favorite. Welcome everyone to PTR TV for coverage of tonight's race of the Red Sox Racing League. Here we are in our Spring GT3 Series 3. I don't know how to say that, but you get the picture. Round number 3 here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Gonna be myself, Corey Silva, in the booth and in the production truck, and I have my... Bradley's not here today, but Andre, you've heard his voice many a time here on the channel. He's going to be here with me. We cover some road racing on Tuesday, so Andre's going to be stepping in here today at a track that we all know as inherent oval racers. Andre, we all know this track as one that used to hold, at the time, nationwide races. Of course, it's still an F1 track and may or may not be a Cup track in a few years' time, but should be a good track for some GT3 action.
It's a good track for any kind of action. Cirque de Villeneuve is one of my favorite road courses. It is, first of all, incredibly scenic. It is absolutely beautiful up there in Canada. Second of all, great layout. You've got heavy braking zones, you've got some fast sweeping sections, you've got elevation changes. There's literally nothing you could want that this track doesn't have. And it just seems to be that no matter what kind of car you bring here, whether it's high downforce, low downforce, or somewhere in between, it's always going to be a good race.
Yeah, exactly that. All the slipstream opportunities here, and then the famous hairpin. It's kind of it reminds me a little bit of Monza in the sense of the track layout here. And let's see if my track map here renders. Hopefully it does. This is an older track. Yes, it does. Our circuit here, and you can see it's mainly straightaways, and then you got one chicane here. You got another chicane, I think, right about here, and then another one right about here, and then sort of one right here, and then you got sharp turn and sharp turn. So what does all that mean? That means heavy braking zones and guys with the opportunities to force the issues here. But qualifying underway, about a minute or so left, so some guys will get another lap in. You can see drivers crossing the stripe now. They'll be able to complete these laps, about a minute and 30 around this place. Ryan Robertson doing Ryan Robertson things as there goes Lightning McQueen, Robert Barros off for a spin there in the first couple corners. But the times are pretty tight, Andre, and I kind of gave you a little synopsis of how these races usually work here. Ryan Robertson he's the man, he's the master, especially with Ross Booth not being here. But as you look at those times, they are very, very close, whether it's via the slipstream or whether it's just via these guys getting their laps in. Hopefully that gives us a good race.
Yeah, this track does tend to, it's a very close racetrack. The heavy braking zones, I think, keeps everybody together because, hey, if a guy's getting away from you, just outbrake him a little bit in the next braking zone. Try to regain that if you can. But it is so much fun, and with these lap times being as close as they are, I mean, it's almost a tie for second place on the board, 2 1:36.08 lap times. We're looking forward to some good action, and again, so many passing opportunities here, Corey. If these guys really shake out being this close in the race, I would expect a ton of overtakes, which is just going to be a lot of fun.
Should be pretty fun indeed here. Well, the qualifying session has formally ended here, so now they will get about 2 minutes of a cool-down lap. So basically anybody on track right now who is on a live lap, they will be able to complete it and of course see if they can best their current time here. So You can see on track we have it's Robert Kansian here as the liveries decide to update here. He's going to make his attempt to the pits. And while you can see these last couple guys finish up, I'm scrolling up here. I do see the practice results here from, they have 2 practice sessions for each Red Sox race on Saturdays and Tuesdays. Dave Hill, fastest on the Saturday session with a lap time of 1:45.3, so actually 1:45.3, no, 1:36, that was average, 1:36 flat rather. And then Mark Kudrowski fastest with about a 1:36 flat as well on the Tuesday session, so 1:36 flat, basically right in tow with what we're seeing right here. Actually, Ryan Robertson managed to break that 36-second bracket, the only driver in the 35s, but barely.
Yeah, just barely, 1:35.95. So that was actually his last lap, and improving to the last possible second. You take them when you can get them, and he found a little bit of an advantage there, but still incredibly close to Dave Hill, who, like you said, showed some speed earlier in the week. We'll see if that transitions over to the race. Mark Kudrowski with a 1:36.08, Robert Barris 1:36.29, Mark Wilson 1:36.33, so just so close. And then another tie. Look at this, Sheldon Rosenbaum 1:36.41 to Ted. Oh boy, you're gonna have to help me out with this one, Corey. Marin Petrie.
So the funny thing is, the Americanized version of the name, you said it correctly, but his name stems from an Italian heritage, and in Italy they pronounce it Marin Pietri. And me being completely non-cultural, I said it the Italian way and not the American way. So kind of flip a coin on either, however you want to say it. But Todd's a guy who is usually a pretty good top 10 driver there, and Les Turner, the league admin down there in the 10th spot. About 27 cars here on the evening, so another healthy field here. Great to see these guys supporting the series. New drivers coming in, a long time series that we've been covering, and always have a great time with it. But now these guys are heading down for the starting lineup, and let's go ahead and give it to you here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Ryan Robertson doing Ryan Robertson things. He's going to start this race from P1, but there'll be a lot of hometown drivers here. There's Dave Hill, Canadian native, there in the second. Third is Mark Kudrowski, and then Lightning McQueen, Kachow, Robert Barros in fourth. Fifth place finds Mark Wilson, and then Sheldon Rosenbaum in sixth spot. Seventh place will find Todd Marin Pietri, and another Canadian. You got Robert Seneville out of, I believe that is Quebec, if I know my abbreviations. Brian Irby, and then out of Toronto, Les Turner. That's pretty relatively close to here, I think, in 10th.
Yeah, not too far. Robert Kansian, I'm going to say, P11, Reed Rundell, and you can tell I was not versed on these names prior to this. Scott Huston is going to be P13, Rich Minkler going to be 14th. Look back at 15th, that's where you're going to find Chris Sherburne, and he's alongside Matt Owens in 16th. 17th belongs to Dwayne McCarthy. You got Jim Graziano in 18th. And you got Kevin Kyle, P19, running out the top 20, Gerald Livingston.
And rounding out our grid, Nathan Lafayette in 21st, Dennis Griffin in 22nd, Bill Paulucky in 23rd, Ed Sutcliffe in 24th. And then just to round things out, we got Bryce Moyer, Mark Agee, and Aaron Law, or as Bradley called him, Aaron L.A., Los Angeles, however we want to call them, shotgun on the field. Of course, our race details here, nothing new, as we've been kind of in similar format for quite some time. Our limited fuel load, so we will have the forced pit stop somewhere in the realm of, I'll say anywhere between 5 minutes and 5 minutes to go. Really, anytime in that ballpark, you should be able to do it. 30-minute time raced. If I could spell, that would be fabulous. And of course, the fixed setups and one fast repair is available if it is deemed necessary, as they will drive down the back straightaway here. One of the prime passing opportunities heading down the Casino Straight into the famous conclusion hairpin here, 12 and 13. We've seen some really good passing here, predominantly in the Nationwide era, Andre. There was some amazing finishes here in that last corner.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who could forget Marcus Ambrose, Robbie Gordon, that feud they had, and some of the other finishes that we've had. But The pace car is going to pull off, and we are going to be underway. The Nyan Catmobile, didn't expect to see that here in 2024, is going to be leading the field to the start-finish line a little ways down the straight. Green flag is out. We're going to be 2 by 2. We got so many cars. They're still working their way through the chicane behind them, but a little bit of contact between the leaders. Robertson with an aggressive move up to the lead, but Dave Hill not letting him get away. He is still right there on the bumper, and so is Mark Kudrowski. He is there in third, trying to figure out where he fits into this battle. Player 3 trying to make sure he sticks with it. We got Lightning McQueen himself, Robert Barris, in what I believe to be a Porsche. Not very versed on the GT3 cars, but he's right there as well. Then you got a little bit of a gap back to Mark Wilson, about half a second. So he's got a little bit of work to do, but these guys have sorted everything out real clean here in this first half of the lap, Corey.
Yeah, we had a few races over the course of the season that had some pretty rough starts, and admin kind of got their way with kind of fixing that and kind of setting the precedent that, you know, this league is based on a respect basis. You very seldom see wrecks. You very seldom see adverse moments here. So these guys take advantage of that. But here they come into the hairpin for the first time here on the evening. And you can see some different lines there. I think Dave Hill may have been a little bit later on the brakes than Robertson and had to evade somebody going around. I think
about 50 feet later.
Yeah, who is that? That's the 9 car. That is Robert Seneville, and 11 car of Brian Irby having some issues there in the hairpin. We'll try to sort out what may have happened there. Maybe that camera is not the best one. We'll go back and check it out here. This will do a better job. I think Irby may have... Irby just missed it.
Came in a little hot. I don't think either of those cars acquired too much damage through that, but it is going to be a significant time loss in track position, of course. But that was just a massive miscalculation there, Corey. I've been there. I've done that. Scary situation when the car does not slow down the way you thought it would.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, a lot of times the brakes have to literally get down to temperature, or get up to temperature. If they got down to temperature, that'd be a little bit different, but you have to get up to temperature, and to get that maximum braking performance, lap number 1 may not be enough to do that here. But as we go back to the front of the field, as we know, Andre, this kind of carries over both in oval and in most forms of road racing here on iRacing. That slipstream range tends to be about, I would say, 0.7 of a second. Usually once you get out of that 0.7 of a second bubble, usually you're on your way, and that's going to be a big number for Dave Hill to try to keep in tow here, no pun intended, heading into the hairpin about 0.3 back, and it looks like Robertson a little bit easy on the brakes, but that could work to his benefit, giving him the run on corner exit, but that time I don't think it did. Coming down the straight, we'll bring up our battle tracker. Look at that number in the middle. It is growing. Robertson must have got that run he desired.
Yeah, he got a really good run out of the corner. We'll see how Dave Hill can combat it. A little bit of slipstream down this long straightaway closes the gap a bit, but he's going to have to do the rest of the work through the chicane. And getting loose, having to counter steer, that is not going to help his cause whatsoever. He's going to lose just a little bit of time, possibly more issues on the straightaway. Somebody off.
Kudrowski, I have a hankering at what may have happened. I want to get some validation to that hankering here, entering the final bus stop. Yep, my hankering was accurate. He missed it and got a slowdown here. Brakes seem to be not working properly for a few of these guys thus far in the event.
No, and like you said, they're probably not up to temperature quite yet. It also looks quite late in the evening, so, you know, evenings in Canada don't tend to be very warm, so it may take them a while. Yeah, 72 degrees on the track, 70 in the air. That's not necessarily freezing by any means, but it's also not blistering hot, so these brakes going to take a couple laps to really get up to temps. And when you're in a pack as well, Corey, you tend to enter the corner a little bit slower. You drive a little bit slower in a pack like this than you would when you're on your own, which means you're braking less, which means you're heating them up even slower, which is not ideal. Unless you're the leader, Ryan Robertson or Dave Hill. This driver with the number 13, buddy, he is sticking right with him. 3 seconds back to Robert Barris. These two have broken away big time, but they have not broken away from one another. They are still within 0.3 of a second. That's where the gap has been hovering. I don't think Robertson has a massive speed advantage over Dave Hill, at least not a speed advantage that the slipstream cannot make up for. It's really just a matter of finding the opportunity to pass and being just close enough to do so. As we get into the chicane, once again, you see just a slight outbreak by Dave Hill, drove it in deep, but the run out, I think, I was going to say Robertson got a run out, but I'll tell you what, that was pretty equal, so he's closing.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually saw this, Andre, at our Tuesday series about a month or so ago when that ended at Bathurst, that the Aussies were really fast at Bathurst. I swear home track advantage does mean something. You can see on the wing there of Dave Hill. I'm not sure if he actually is Canadian or not. He must be, because he has a Canadian flag there on the spoiler. But these guys tend to show up at their home track races, so he's trying to make that car perform to the top of its abilities. But as I kind of alluded you to, Ryan Robertson typically wins almost every race he joins. Ross Booth not here today, so Ryan is going to try and get himself another one here, but Dave Hill's going to try and hang on in the best ability he has, but he's starting to lose it a little bit. But he seemed to get a really good run there, exiting that corner and now heading into the hairpin here. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, that was a massive run, Corey. He fell back to 0.7 of a second behind. In that one corner that you pointed out, he brought it back to 0.2. That is not insignificant. And now back into this long straightaway.
This is the closest he's been.
Slipstream should pull him even closer as well. So I'm not saying he's within striking distance, but it is as close as he's been. And
that's growing, though.
Looking for it here.
That's growing, though. I'll tell you, he's hard on the binders, but he's not getting the runs off the corners here. And if that's one thing about tracks that have chicanes, it does make the opportunity to gain and lose. It kind of makes it an exponential factor there. You really can gain a lot of time or lose a lot of time in a chicane. A lot of times it's about how aggressive and how fearless the driver really is here. So we'll keep an eye on that. But let's kind of go through the rest of the field and see what we can see here. Mark Kudrowski closing in on Todd Mayer and Pietri. It's about 0.3 of a second back, and most of these guys seem to be separated by about 0.5 second or so. Going back all the way through, looks like there's a gaggle of which is in the early 20s there. Bill Paul Lucky closing in on Kevin Kyle. A lot of times the best racing in the pack here is always in the 20s here. Paul Lucky closing in, I think, into turn number 3 and 4 here. This is probably the toughest part of this track because this is the most street circuit section of the circuit. Walls on each side, really not a lot of runoff room here. Really doesn't open up here until you get about till leading into the hairpin.
Yeah, it doesn't open up at all. I mean, you're going to have this little bit of a short shoot here, but then you're into another chicane that leads into the hairpin, and the exit of this chicane that they're coming up on is actually very tricky. I don't know what it seems to be, but in every sim that I've ever raced this track, the exit of the chicane has such little grip, and you can see them taking it a little bit easy on corner exit, trying not to break those tires loose. So it's difficult to make anything happen there. This straightaway, though, longest straightaway on the track, it's going to bring them together with the slipstream right into the chicane. And one thing I wanted to mention pre-race, I didn't have time. We've talked a little bit on other broadcasts about pit roads that tempt you. You know, pit roads that make you want to really get in there hot and be aggressive. This pit road is probably the king of that, Corey. I mean, you bypass the chicane altogether at the end of that incredibly long straightaway, only to have another chicane to get into the pits. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of time to be gained or lost, and when we
something happened here to our second place driver, who is no longer in second place.
No.
I have a hankering. Let's see if my hankering is accurate again. And
so you're headed down the chicane.
Very close proximity to Ryan. Let's see, where did he butcher it? Right there.
Oh, yep.
He rode over that curb enough, and you can see him pulling. No, he's still not pulling to the right here. And
you can tell he's trying to serve a penalty, though, because he is off pace. He's losing almost a second on that straightaway alone.
Because at some point he pulled the right there he pulled the parachute because he had to clear it. I think it gives you roughly about 30 seconds to clear before you eventually get a black flag. So, and as I always say, in this series. They'll stay with Ryan until a mistake happens. That's typically how it is, usually around 10. I think I actually said it verbatim, Andre, in our pre-race talk, right around 10 minutes. Someone will be close to Ryan for about 10 minutes, and then something happens. Where are we at in the race? We're 10 minutes in. I'm a psychic, but I do not know the lotto numbers.
Well, that's a shame. I could use those numbers. But either way, it is crushing to see that mistake. You could tell he was holding out hope. Maybe if I just let off the throttle a little bit. You know, iRacing is kind of goofy when it comes to their slowdown penalties. Sometimes you can get away with it. You know, it'll kind of clear itself just if you scrub a little bit of momentum. But that was not the case. He had to get on the binders and really throw out the parachute. Fell back to third. Lost 5 seconds total to our leader, which is just about as close as anybody. The only car ahead of him now is Robert Barris. Between him and the leader, and that's 4.5 seconds up to Robertson. So Robertson, pretty comfortable right now. Nothing to really worry about. You can see that is the gap at the top of your screen. You will just barely see Barris come into frame as the camera turns around. But going back to what I was saying about the pit road, Corey, you can gain a lot there. And you told me that, you know, about halfway generally is when the mandated pit stop is preferred for some of these guys, although they may go further. So I'm excited to see the pit stops. I think that might shake up the running order quite a bit.
Yeah, because as you said, you kind of go straight through. It's one of those pit roads that it tempts you, and if you don't practice it, this is not a pit road that you're going to just naturally have the vibe to, you know, of how fast to go, because as you said, it does not follow the traditional track layout here. We'll kind of show it here as we're watching this gaggle of vehicles here at about the 10th to 15th spot on track right now. Matt Owens on camera. There's a Chris Sherburne, not Shearburn, because Shearburn is the Coke driver, but missing a letter here, but Chris Sherburne. But as you'll see here, the pits at the end of this casino straight, they go straight right there, staying to the top right of your screen, and then you just go kind of follow a little chicane into the pit. So you have to practice that. There's a specific pit road braking point, and if you don't know it, you're going to get yourself penalized. So, but if anybody will probably be able to take that very conservatively, it's going to be Ryan Robertson, because he's going to be 5.5, 6 seconds up right now. So he is going to have to take that as conservatively as possible. Absolutely no reason to push it and detriment your race.
No, you don't want to push it at all. If you got a 5-second gap, you can take it easy. You can coast into the pits for all I care. You're going to come out with that lead one way or the other. But battles all over the track. Everybody just kind of single file right now, but they're just not separated by that much. If you look at between 4th and 5th, there's less than a second there. Between 5th and 6th, you know, that's only about 0.3 of a second. That's a pretty close battle between Rosenbaum and Kudrowski. So, got a driver still fighting for every point, every position. I'm not exactly sure where in the season we are. Again,
race number 3. So
last minute. So, okay, early in the season, every point still definitely matters.
Yeah, so the Red Sox Racing League, for those who maybe are a little new to follow, so typically 6 race little mini seasons. There's a drop week involved. Any of the races are eligible to be dropped. So we are middle of the season. Next week is going to be, in preliminary terms, based on the words I have been told, next week is going to be a full wet race, I think. At least it's been sort of rumored to be so. Rain was inadvertently brought into our Monza race, and that caused some issues that were unexpected, but I think Nürburgring next week should be a full wet race, or at least a predominantly rain race, something on those lines. So that'll be an anomaly. That'll be something interesting to check out, so you can stay tuned for that next week, and then we'll be wrapping up the season. So we do have some pit stops being had now. Is Robert Kansian in? I don't see any issues that were caused, so this may be a scheduled stop for him. And something that can happen, Andre, we see this happen in a lot of different facets here, but I'll cut myself off here because I think Barros may have got a penalty as well, because he is pulling the parachute out, getting passed by about 3 or 4 drivers here.
Robert was having such a good run, and he was up there in P2. He's going to drop much more than the other driver who got a penalty. We'll see exactly where it went wrong.
Trees.
And a little bit hot through the chicane.
Did he just miss it and lose his momentum? Maybe that's the case.
I think it is, Corey. He just missed it a little bit. and the other drivers around him, I mean, that momentum carries all the way down the straightaway. So everybody else took advantage of it, dove to the inside, got around him. There was no penalty involved, just missed his mark. And what's crazy is, Corey, watching that, it didn't look like he missed it by that much, but I tell you, he certainly paid for it.
Yeah, certainly the case. Went from second down to sixth spot. Luckily for him, he's still within visible reach of everybody. Dave Hill did manage to get back up to second spot, and if you're a Dave Hill fan, he was faster than the leader last time by. I'll pull up the ticker here, and the left side of your display will switch over to lap times. He's faster than Ryan, but the problem is not fast enough. 2/10 is not going to eat into a 5.5 second gap fast enough when we are now officially halfway through our race. Looks like a battle may be forming here. Reed Rundle and Les Turner, our league admin, league owner here. They're right on each other's tail, and I do know Reed. I actually raced with Reed in a late model race, and I'll tell you, that guy has some pace in a late model stock. Much more than I ever have. I got to give him some props there, how he can whip that car around. He's trying to do the best he can in a GT3, trying to see if he can get that 7th spot. We're going to go all the way down to the back, Andre. Sometimes the battle on the caboose is the best battle on the track here. Kevin Kyle, 24th. Robert Senneville, 25th. There's Bill Pollocky, 26th. You wouldn't know it that they were going for last year.
No, but again, every point counts. So again, we got that drop week that is eligible, and then a 6-race season. We're only 3 races in, so the halfway mark. These guys are going to fight for it. They don't care if it's for last place, even if it's not for the points. You know, half the fun of showing up to sim racing is getting to battle with other drivers and just doing what they love to do on track. So they're going to give it their all, first, last, somewhere in between. It don't matter to these guys. So working our way through the chicane again. A little bit of a wall tap there for 5th place, Mark Kudrowski in that Audi machine. I don't know much about the GT3 cars and their damage model Corey, but do you think that's significant enough against the concrete wall to have any sort of impact?
So, I mean, the new damage model, I mean, as we know from our oval backgrounds, it's kind of rolled the dice. And there was actually a major glitch. I don't know if I put it in any of our group chats, Andres. We do have some pit stops being had here. But there was a major Coke Series race at Talladega in the NASCAR vehicles, and a continuous bump draft over the course of about 50 laps ended up breaking the front bumper off the car and detrimented a major iRacing streamers race. So that just goes to show you that sometimes the lightest impact can be catastrophic, or sometimes you can nose the wall at 150 and still be fine. So it's kind of moody, I guess you'd say.
Sounds about right. Pretty consistent across iRacing, I suppose. But we'll find out. Time will tell for Mark Kudrowski. He's held on to his position. He's not lost any time to Robert Barros thus far. So I'd assume he got away with the wall tap. Sometimes you get away with him, and I think that's what happened there. Another battle here. We got a Porsche versus a Mercedes going into the hairpin. Matt Owens on board, trailing this Mercedes. Let's see. A little bit loose on exit, but still got the power down pretty quick, didn't lose much time, and this is where you're going to see the slipstream just a little bit pulling them together. Well, maybe his exit wasn't quite good enough. It's going to drop him back a bit here, not quite quick enough to take advantage of that slipstream.
Yeah, some tracks you can kind of get away with, what's that saying, have your cake and eat it too, when you kind of do two things that usually don't work together and you can still make it work, but didn't work here. Most of these guys that are having these aggressive entries to the corners not getting their exits, that's kind of more of the racer's omen there. But here comes Les Turner into the pits. Rich Minkler, that 908, he is also coming to pit road right now. So basically the back end of the field has all taken time. Ryan Robertson, he's up by 6.5 seconds, but he's still kicking the rear end out and missing the wall there by inches. So just because he's up by 6 seconds, he's going Max Verstappen style. I remember I've heard so many times on radio where Max Verstappen's team will tell him, calm down, turn the pace down, we have a huge lead, there's nothing to play for, and he's still out turning fast laps. And Ryan Robertson kind of pulling that same card.
Absolutely. I think he's liking the way that Ferrari's feeling for him. It's just dialed in. You know, obviously it's a fixed setup league. Everybody's got roughly the same setup, but every car does have slightly different attributes, slightly different physics, just because of the aerodynamics and then all the components underneath the hood. So he's liking the way that car feels, and that lead is testament to that. But further back, if it were not for Ryan Robertson, as far as the I'm not Ryan Robertson class is concerned, it's still a pretty close race. Dave Hill, Mark Wilson, not able to get away from each other.
And these are teammates too.
Yeah, they're within a second of each other, about 7 or 8 tenths. And then you got Sheldon Rosenbaum not far behind them. And then you got a freight train of cars here that all realistically could close in just a little bit and start making some passes on one another. It's a great battle. It's just, Robertson didn't get the memo that it's supposed to be a battle.
Yeah, it's we've had verbiage of it in other leagues. If you're a follower of our channel, you may know our Tuesday series is the driver Aaron Nom in the Mustangs, and he's kind of the best. He's the best of the best, and typically everybody else is in the best of the rest crowd here. That's typically how it is. Although with some exceptions, I have seen Ryan Robertson bin it before. There was a race at Watkins Glen a few seasons ago. It was Aaron Los Angeles, Aaron LA, one of the three. He is in the pits, but there was a race at, actually, it was the anomaly of all anomalies. It was Watkins Glen a few seasons ago, where lap number 1 and 2, Ross Booth, he binned himself in the bus stop, and then the next lap, Ryan Robertson binned himself in the bus stop. So the race opened up. Now that just doesn't happen very often. I mean, if you just think of it, it's like going to McDonald's and getting your order correctly 4 times in a row. I mean, sometimes the stars line up, but you can't bank on that. But I don't think Ryan's making that mistake today. Maybe he'll get a slowdown, but even if he does, up by 7 seconds, he'll probably still be able to recoup it.
Yeah, I would say he would be on pace to do that. He's just in a class of his own up here. 7.5 seconds now. Maybe it's the Neon Cat, Corey. I don't know if he runs this paint scheme every week, but
this is new. This is certainly new.
Okay, well maybe it's adding to the horsepower a little bit. I mean, it's Neon Cat. It's got to be fast.
And I've been trying to figure out where this scheme comes from, because there's probably some movie. I'm not a movie guy at all, as you know. But all I think of is the old console, the Vectrex. Literally, it's a system that the only thing that it can render is lines. That's it. So the game has to be a line. It's the only thing that the system could render. And the only way that games were different from each other was you had like a kind of a textured holographic screen that you'd lay over your TV, and that would change the visuals of the game. For some reason, that's the first thing I think of when I see Sheldon Rosenbaum's car. But I'm sure there's some movie or some cool reference behind it that it's just above me.
I'm just thinking Tron. It reminds me of Tron quite a bit, something about that. But either way, a lot of cool paint schemes here in this league. I know some good-looking cars. Of course, you got Lightning McQueen. Very unsettling teeth on the front of the car. I've never been noticing that. We do have teeth and even eyes. Okay, the eyes are there. That is slightly unsettling, but in the best possible way, I should say. So hats off to Mr. number 58, Robert Barris, for a interesting paint scheme.
Here comes Ryan into the pits. So here come those second and third place drivers, the teammates of Dave Hill and Mark Wilson. So I guess this is going to be the lottery card right here, Ryan. For Ryan, and talking to Andre, it's about a 7-second pit stop is usually how long they are, 7 to 10 seconds. All right, so I was pulling my dramatic card here and waiting to see if he was going to get a pit speed penalty, which I didn't expect, but I was going for the TNT drama card there. It did not happen. So exiting the pits, let's see.
Corey, hold on.
What?
The Ferrari sticker on Robertson's car does not say Ferrari. You wanna read what that says?
Trying to wait for it to pull Ferrari.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think we have a soundboard in this server, but if there was, I would play something there. But that's bonus points there.
That is absolute bonus points. Further back, how about some side-by-side, the number 34 machine, right alongside the 077, and they're going to stay side-by-side in the downhill.
Yeah, Matt Owens and Graziano, that was.
Yeah, 34 lost a little bit of time there. Had to give it up. That's a tough place to go side-by-side, Corey. Like you said, the most narrow part of the track, the most street circuit-esque portion of the track. Don't really want to be side-by-side. I think that was a good move, just kind of conceding it. But nice aggression out of the 077, using it to his advantage there. And how about this, going into a braking zone, quick left followed by a right.
With some sun in your eye, for anybody who has VR, I'll tell you that's absolutely brutal when you have that sun in your eye for the virtual reality drivers.
I'm not even in VR, that looked pretty brutal. So it's got to be something here. Sunset in Canada, but Lafayette clinging to the car ahead, doing what he can, but I think he might be losing just a little bit of time through this little bit of a chicane into the heavy braking zone. He's actually got a little bit of a challenge from behind as well, so this could be close. These three drivers.
Pietri with a look there, but
Pietri going a little bit wide there. Had to get out of the throttle. That's going to give some breathing room to Lafayette.
Just going back in the field, Robert Seneville. He was encountering a battle from Gerald Livingston in that number 67. That has since ceased here. And up front, the gap rose by about 2 seconds, maybe a second and a half, somewhere in that ballpark, with Robertson extending the gap over Dave Hill here, as I am grotesquely disappointed here by watching my stick and ball sports scores over here. So unfortunate for that. But that is a huge lead here, but we should go back to, because he's just been in the mix all race. There's some guys that are just Velcroed to somebody, and Kedrowski has been Velcroed to somebody all race, and Lightning McQueen it will be. I mean, I'm trying to think offhand. Oh my God, I've watched Cars 3 about 87,000 times. Jackson Storm, that's who it is. Kedrowski will be the Jackson Storm to Barros here. He's going to take a look to the inside into the hairpin. They're not going to play easy now. This is the meat and potatoes of the race, and ultimately Lightning will have to suffice and give the spot to the 944.
Yeah, it was a good move. He set it up with the exit of the last chicane, got a good run down the straightaway, put himself in striking distance. I think if old Lightning McQueen had been a little bit more aggressive there, if Barris had gotten on the binders a little bit quicker, he could have made it a crossover and got back alongside him, but that's a tricky part of the track. These low-speed sections of the track, depending on what you got your ABS set at, I'm not sure exactly how it works on iRacing. Again, GT3 and iRacing kind of foreign to me, but depending on what your ABS is at and what your traction control is at, the exit of these corners can be very brittle with wheel spin. And so you're tempted to get on the throttle and say, let's make it a crossover, let's get aggressive. But if you do that, you might just lose more time spinning your tires because your traction control ain't kicking in. But he's right with him. I mean, he got past, and we thought that might be all she wrote, but Barris is sticking with Kedrowski. And he actually might have been a little bit quicker through that last section, just unable to make the move. Now, this is the section where we saw Barris make a mistake earlier when we thought he got a penalty. Got through it pretty good this time. He's going to stick with him in this right and then left complex. I don't know. He might be trying to get him back in the hairpin coming up, Corey.
Yeah, maybe. And I'll tell you, go back to your point on the traction control, the ABS, stuff like that. Sometimes, I mean, you want the help. You want to be able to mat it and have the car just, go. But sometimes you want to have that little bit of extra control. You want to have that little bit extra power. So you might turn the traction control down. You might turn the ABS down because you want to trust yourself to be able to drive it in a little bit harder. And sometimes when you do that, you overstep your skill level, really, and you can cause yourself to be in a more precarious position. So kind of that fine line between going fast and also keeping the car under control here. Another guy who's been getting his TV time, probably record TV time for Matt Owens here. He has been on screen constantly here today in some form of a battle. He is trying to slipstream and close in on Chris Sherburne, who is trying to close in on Les Turner, all down that casino straight. There is Scott Husted, who has evaded here. And 135 taking a little bit of a peek, just enough to get in Les Turner's mirror, not close enough to make a move, but enough to just make the guy in front think, because he's going to look in the mirror, see a car there, and then he's going to move, and he ain't going to be there anymore.
Yeah, that's a scary situation when you look in the mirror and the guy's just played the disappearing act because he is ready to make a move. And I'll tell you, there's not very many Mercedes in the field, so this car definitely stands out, but he's making it work. He is right there with him as far as pace is concerned. We've seen this driver involved in battles time and time again. Cutting back to our leader, 6.8 seconds. Okay, so Dave Hill cut into it a little bit, Corey. It was 7.4, now 6.78. I mean, I'm not going to get there in time, but he's gaining.
Yep, and we will come down to 1 to go here, where these lap times are about 1:38 here around Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I don't have the accents. Bradley would absolutely eat up the accent on this one, because he, let's just say Bradley was not very happy with me and how I did not know how to pronounce the corners at Spa last week. We'll see what he can do at Nürburgring next week. But either way, at Spa, those lap times were a lot longer here, about 1:37. We're going to cross the stripe probably around 36, 37 seconds. So this will give us about 1.5 minutes of extra racing here as we take the white flag lap here around Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Ryan Robertson, he seemed to grow the gap there by about a half second, and he is still going for the kill. I think he's trying to go for the PB lap on the race. Let's see if I have the graphic for it. I think I do. Yes, Ryan Robertson does have that fastest lap of the race at a 35.77, so that'll be an extra point for him in the bank.
Which, by the way, Corey, that's 2/10 faster than he qualified. So to pick up that much in race trim is pretty impressive. Just going to put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what lap that was. I don't know if my telemetry is fancy enough for that. But a lot of times these guys will do it later in the run as the fuel burns. We're not having a lot of tire deg here in Red Sox just because these races are on the short side. So you won't really have tire deg. So your fastest lap could very well come at the absolute end of the race. But yeah, he's going to come off the corner here, and I think he's won. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have my stats directly in front of me. I want to say he's won. Well, he didn't win last week, but yeah, this will be his second win of the season, I do believe. So he's going to come through the hairpin for the penultimate time. Well, not the penultimate, the final time here. Come down the Casino straight. A few more corners. No mistakes in the chicane. Will be his to take home.
Yep, just got to navigate the chicane safely, and honestly, even if he made a bobble here, he'd still drive to the start-finish line with a comfortable lead. So down into the final set of corners, quick right, then left. Not going to take any chances. Up on the curb to the line. You called it, Corey. You told me before the race. He even started flashing the lights, weaving back and forth. And the end cat himself, Ryan Robertson, grabs another win. And the potential hometown hero, Dave Hill, going to be P2 in that 13 machine. He's got his teammate Mark Wilson right behind in third on the podium. A little bit of gap back to Sheldon Rosenbaum. Mark Kudrowski holds on to fifth, I believe, from Robert Barris, who was going to close it in.
Yep, and as the rest of these guys go by, of course, in Red Sox fashion, they do have to drive a full cool-down lap back to the entry of the pits. If they run out of fuel and for some reason cannot make it to the pit cone under their own power, they will be penalized. So you can't just stop and park. You do have to drive it all the way around. And seeing if there's any last second battles here to the stripe, just looking at the telemetry, don't think that's going to be the case. So again, we offer our congratulations to Ryan Robertson, and while he does his cool down lap, let's go and start our post-race show and give you the final rundown of results here today from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Getting the race win by a final margin of victory, that there is 7.7 seconds. Ryan Robertson over Dave Hill. Dave, remember, had that slowdown. He stayed with him. Where would he be without that mistake? We'll never know. Mark Wilson with the third. Sheldon Rosenbaum gets the fourth. Mark Kudrowski in fifth. Barros in sixth. He had a couple penalties here today. Reed Rundle, a solid run in seventh. Cancian, Minkler, and Scott Husted rounding out our top 10.
Looking outside the top 10, Les Turner in the 0-1 takes P11. He's got Jim Graziano behind him, Matt Owens, Dwayne McCarthy, Dennis Griffin, Nathan Lafayette. After a hard-fought battle is going to be P16. Chris Sherburne in 17th. 18th goes to Robert Spineville after that lap 1 incident. Captain Kyle P19 and Jeff Livingston.
I think the internet, it made it through the whole race, Andre, but it didn't like the results for you there. But that is our top 20. Bill Paul Lucky in 21st. Aaron La in 22nd. LA, Los Angeles, Lay, whatever it is. He hasn't told us yet, so we'll continue to have fun with it. Bryce Moyer in 23rd. Ed Sutcliffe 24th. Mark Agee. Todd Marin-Pietri. I don't know what happened to him. He wasn't that low on the field, but something chronic happened to him. And then Brian Irby, he had a lap one or so faux pas, and the hairpin finishes dead last. And we'll go and find our race winner. He already is here, so we will go and have a word with him. So Ryan Robertson does Ryan Robertson things, and I'll tell you, I told Andre, my buddy here for the evening, typically what happens is someone will stay with you. They'll make a mistake around 10-15 minutes in, and then you're on cruise control for the rest of it. And I was dead spot on. Dave stayed with you. He got a penalty, and after that, you were set sailing, man.
Yeah, I mean, it especially with this track, it comes down to just consistency and knowing when to extend and when not to. I mean, this track rewards being super aggressive on any of the curbs, but it can just as easily bite you and put you in the wall and end your race. So it was, Dave had amazing pace and was keeping with me the whole time, and I was trying to push enough but not push too much that I'm gonna force myself into a mistake. And unfortunately I didn't see what happened. I just suddenly saw the gap grow and I was like, all right, and I could kind of ease off just a little bit and not push as hard and not take as many risks.
Yes, well, we saw you were still kicking the rear end sideways there, still going for some solid laps. It didn't seem like you were really backing it down too much, as even with that lead. Were you kind of trying to set that fast lap, or were you just having fun out there? Because it seemed like you were still going pretty full bore.
I probably backed it off about 2 or 3 tenths a lap. It was the back end kind of kicking is more a characteristic of the Ferrari than anything. This is the first time I've driven this in a really long time, and as opposed to most of the fixed setups, the Ferrari, where they tend to lean toward understeer and just driving through a corner awkwardly, the Ferrari actually has a lot of back end kick to it in this setup. So it's actually pretty easy in first and second gear to just completely kick that rear end out, and especially going over these curbs, it's not the most stable car, but it is definitely a lot of fun to drive.
Well, and I will say, I think Andre attributes your win solely to your paint scheme, by the way.
I chose it. Just Bongo Cat didn't work for me last week, so figured Nyan Cat might do better.
And it did just that. Well, based on the rumors, we'll see you in Germany next week, and I bring your umbrella if the rumor is true.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I have very little practice in any rain conditions, so could be an interesting one.
All right. Well, we'll see you. We'll see what happens there, and congrats on the win, man. We'll talk to you.
Thanks. Talk to you later, Car.
All right, and Andre, I know you're new to these guys, but we saw Dave Hill and his endeavors. We'll see what happened to him. You got him in second.
Mr. Hill, you got a copy?
I do.
Well, Dave, that was a phenomenal run. I know second place is always just a little bit disappointing, but I want to focus on the positive here. That was a amazing run. I mean, you went toe-to-toe with who Corey tells me is pretty much the pick of the litter in this league. And I mean, you were on lap times right there with them. You got one penalty. You had to give up a little bit of time, and then from there, you just couldn't quite get back to them. But tell me a little bit about your race.
Yeah, no, kind of what you said there. I got that slowdown, and I couldn't believe how long it was. It was like a 4-second slowdown, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can burn some of it off on the straight here, and then I'm like, okay, well, I can kill the rest of it off in the corner, and it was just still hanging on, and I was just, oh man, and then Mark, my teammate, he's like, are you? He knew I got the penalty. He's like, are you done? Get back in, and he was able to let me back in. So. I only had one car to get by, but by then it was done. There was no catching Ryan. I mean, he was running a great pace, and I think I maybe burned up my tires a bit trying to play catch up, which didn't help. And then I burned myself coming into the pits. I guess I left it just a little too late, and I ran out of gas a couple stalls before mine, so I had to coast to my pit stop, and then I took as least fuel as possible, and still got the second. So I'm still really happy, to be honest with you. I wasn't coming in thinking I was going to get a win anyways, so I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, it's a great points day, and having that little bit of a mishap on pit road and the penalty, anytime you can come back from that and really finish where you pretty much would have otherwise, that's a great points day. But according to Corey, next week we're going to be heading over to Germany, and if the rumors are true, it might be a bit of a downpour. How do you feel
Not
about
a downpour, a realistic amount of rain.
Realistic. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm not... I love the big track. I'm actually not very good at the GP portion of it, so I think it'll be a struggle for me, even without the rain. So I guess we'll see what happens. Just an extra challenge, I guess.
Do you think the rain might actually level the playing field a little bit because everybody is kind of getting used to it still and just learning about it on iRacing? Do you think it might kind of shake things up?
Maybe. I'd suggest that if anyone hasn't tested in the rain yet, they go do so. And just because it definitely is different. And, you get offline, you get into the puddles, it grabs your wheels. And it can really slow you down and or put you off track pretty quick. So anyone who hasn't practiced, I think, is going to be struggling even more than the guys that are comfortable in it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time, Dave. Congratulations on a podium. Hopefully you can replicate it next week.
All right, thanks guys. Talk to you later.
Yep.
All right, P2 out of the booth, and now Corey's going to have a word with third place, Mark Wilson.
All right, another quiet run for Mark Wilson, and you get third on the podium just behind your teammate there. You were in the top 5 most of the race. How'd you end up sneaking into the podium there? We think we missed what happened.
Well, I qualified P5. Robert Burris had an incident, and MK had an incident. And you know me, just be there in the end, and was able to take advantage of it, and able to hold Sheldon off. He was putting a lot of pressure on me, but just stay the course. Had Big Dave out in front of me, and I figured he's always a little quicker. So when we practice, I race behind him a lot. So I just figured, Dave, head down. I'm right behind you. Let's go. And that's how I ended up on third. That's it.
Yeah, nice clean run here on a track that's very, very easy to make mistakes. That's what happened to Dave going off track and getting a slowdown. We saw that happen to a bunch of guys, and you just make those minimal mistakes and it works out for you. And, we've been talking to our top 2 guys about next week being the anomaly here on the season, at least if the rumor is true. Robertson says very minimal experience in the rain. Dave says he doesn't like Nürburgring either way, let alone it being wet. What's your take on the potential wet weather race next week?
I'm not the rain guy, but I'll get out there, put the wets on, and see what happens. Just stay steady. My driving style kind of suits the rain, though, so I don't expect to be like way at the bottom. I should finish in the top 10, but other than that, just waiting to see what happens. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an utter. If Ryan has no confidence, either he's lying or it's going to be a complete toss-up. So we'll see what happens, and we'll catch you there, man. Congrats on a solid run.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Appreciate you guys being here.
No problem, man. Anytime. We'll talk to you.
Okay, bye.
All right, well, another race here done in the Red Sox Racing League. Ryan Robertson doing Ryan Robertson things, and we know this from experience, Andre. When a top-tier driver says he has no confidence in something, very seldom do I ever believe it. So I do expect to see Ryan doing pretty well next week, but whenever you add an unknown wild card, anything can happen.
Yeah, I think if we do wind up racing in the rain, it's going to be quite a bit of a show, and I'm looking forward to tuning in. Bradley should be back by then, and I'll be probably watching on YouTube and chat with the rest of you, and should be a good show. But like you said, Corey, anytime somebody who's really good at what they do says, I'm not sure about it, I don't have confidence in it, they're bluffing 95% of the time, so we'll see.
Yeah, we will see indeed. So make sure you like, subscribe, all that fun stuff on our mission to 1,300 subscribers. I think we'll be back live on Saturday night with the Spartan Masters Series at, I believe, Kentucky Speedway in the next gen car. So stay tuned for that. And we'll be back next week for round 4, that imminent potential rain race here at the Nürburgring. But that's going to be Corey and Andre signing out of the booth. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.